Articuno EX, Starmie EX, and Misty. These cards make up one of Pokemon TCG Pocket's strongest archetypes, but also one of its most controversial. Misty is somewhat to blame for that, with the ability to accelerate water energies at an astounding, albeit unreliable pace. Misty is definitely one of the most infamous cards in Pokemon TCG Pocket. However, these three cards aren't the only thing this archetype has going for it. What is up, guys? It's Matty here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a few different deck lists, all of which have a slightly different approach, hopefully shedding some light on each of them, and maybe together we can find out what the best way to play Articuno EX really is. By the way, guys, if you're watching this video, you're probably not subscribed to the channel, so if you're liking the videos and you want to stay tuned for more videos that I'll be uploading in the future, please go subscribe. I would really appreciate it. It means a lot to me, and it's going to help the channel a lot. All right, back to the video. All right, let's get into our first match. The first deck we're going to be playing and taking a look at is going to be a deck that is primarily focused around Articuno EX with Greninja. This is becoming, I guess, the most popular version of Articuno EX, so I figured it would be the one that we, look at first in this video. So let's hop into a game and see if we can win some matches with this particular deck list, while also sort of explaining it and talking about it a little bit. We are going second, which is pretty good. So now the thing with this deck list is that we don't have a lot of basic Pokemon to choose from, really. Basically our only primary attacking option is going to be Articuno EX, and then on our bench we're hopefully going to have Greninja set up, and this deck is all about spread damage. Articuno's 3 energy attack. It does 80 damage to the active Pokemon, but it also does 10 damage to your opponent's bench. So spread damage is very, very good a lot of times in Pokemon TCG Pocket and in Pokemon TCG in general. So we're going to play the Pokeball, hopefully grab an Articuno here that we can attach with Misty. We do grab the Articuno, which is really nice. We have an X speed and a red card in hand. And we also have a Frogadier to evolve this Froakie next turn. So let's go ahead and try this out. So I'm going to actually just right off the bat Misty onto the Articuno and see if we can get some energies. This is actually, I would say, the most, and we do get heads. Okay, perfect. 2 heads, 3 heads, and wow, that is, that's very, very good, I would say. So let's go ahead and X-speed into the Articuno. Our opponent might just forfeit at this point. This perfectly illustrates, wow, this is the first game that I actually played with this deck, but this perfectly illustrates really the strength of this particular archetype and Misty decks in general. I'm just going to attach this to the Froakie because we already have 3 energies on our Articuno. So we can just start hitting with Blizzard, and this is going to do 80 damage KOing the active Machop while also doing some chip damage to the bench there. So that's on our first turn going second, but if we were going first, we would have actually been able to use that Misty and attack anyway, as our opponent concedes. So a pretty good showing in our first matchup. We didn't get to talk about the deck a little bit, so let's hop in and play another match, but yeah, that's just a sneak peek of what this deck can do. All right, let's hopefully find a second match to showcase this deck. But yeah, so the cool thing about Misty decks is that you basically have the ability to do exactly what you saw in that first match, which is just kind of pop off with Misty and accelerate energies at an absolutely ridiculous rate, and potentially win the game on your first turn going first, this is the only deck in the game that has the ability to do that. Decks that have somewhat of an advantage going first are typically pretty good in this game, because a lot of decks really do struggle to go first because it puts you behind in terms of, the energy resource sort of acceleration, and that is a big deal in Pokemon TCG Pocket. So we're going against a Mewtwo here, it seems. We have the small Mewtwo in the active spot. He does already have the Ralts on his bench, so yeah, it's interesting, Misty decks, mainly just because they do have that potential to be extremely good. The thing is, Misty is a very inconsistent card, whereas everything in this game is probably really inconsistent, but a lot of games, if you don't manage to draw Misty or you don't manage to flip heads with your Misties, you're probably not going to win the game, and that's really all it comes down to. So we don't have any other basic Pokemon here. We have 2 Misty in our hand, as well as a Professor's Research. So realistically, what I think I'm going to do here is just play the Misty outright, just in case we get red carded for whatever reason. I know we don't have another Pokemon on our bench, but we're not going to get KO'd anytime soon. So let's play the Misty. We are flipping heads today, at least only 1 heads this time, so nothing too crazy. But what we can do is just attach to the active here manually, and then we can start attacking here with Ice Wing for 40, and 40 plus 80 is 120. This actually is a really good number for Articuno. One of the main reasons why I think Articuno is a pretty good deck. Potion is popular, but 120 is a good number because it does KO Pikachu, and it KOs basically any non-EX Pokemon in the game, or at least a lot of times Pokemon that aren't fully evolved, at least, will be able to get KO'd there. So the idea here, and as we see the potion, which is totally fine, for sure, definitely fine. But the thing with Misty is that you're not always going to flip heads, and a lot of times if you go first and you don't, let's go ahead and play the Pokeball here. If you go first and you don't draw into Misty or you don't get heads on Misty, like it's very unlikely that you're going to win the game because this deck just doesn't necessarily have the pace that some other decks do, like Pikachu, and it doesn't have the overall damage, late game damaging ability that some other decks do, like Mewtwo, like Charizard. Let's play another Pokeball here. Maybe find another Froakie or yeah, okay, all good. So we're gonna want to draw into our Frogadiers here, but the thing with Greninja in this deck is that it pairs somewhat nicely with Articuno in the sense that Articuno's Blizzard attack does 10 damage to the bench, which is nice spread deck. Spread decks and spread damage is very good in Pokemon TCG, especially in Pokemon TCG Pocket, but Greninja's ability allows you to kind of do additional damage to your opponent's Pokemon on their bench or in the active spot as well. I believe for each Greninja every turn, it's 2 damage or 20 damage that you can do per turn. So we're going to see Sabrina here. Again, our opponent just kind of stalling. Right now, we have Sabrina in our hand as well, which is going to be very, very good for us. So this deck is also running a Farfetch'd, which I don't know exactly if there's a primary reason why we're running Farfetch'd. I think it's mainly just because it's a good going first card. It's just another option for an attacker to kind of lead up while you're kind of waiting to draw into the Misties and set up your Articunos to do damage. So we're going to X-Speed into our Articuno, and I am going to play Sabrina just because this Mewtwo here only has 20 HP, so we will be able to sort of chip this thing down eventually. This Sabrina is going to be really important, yeah, so it's going to allow us to start damaging that Ralts. Now the issue right now for us is that this Mewtwo already has 2 energies onto it, and it's going to start KOing our Pokemon very soon here, and that's kind of just the reality. So I think what we're going to have to do is just, we're going to attach to this Froakie here. I'm not going to bench the Farfetch'd because I'm kind of waiting for us to, I'm sort of waiting for us to draw into another Articuno so that we could potentially start attaching to it. Not getting another Articuno here is pretty tough, all things considered. He's not going to be able to side drive us next turn, but he's not going to be attacking either. So here's the difficult part about this deck right now, at least, is that with 140 HP against Mewtwo, we are going to get one hit KO'd by that Mewtwo EX. So if we don't get an Articuno here set up in the next 2 turns and we see another Sabrina, we're just going to lose because we don't have another attacker to bring up and start attacking with, unless we're able to draw the Articuno like we just did, which is phenomenal. So we're gonna bench the Articuno here, and hopefully, I think we just need, basically at this point, we just need 1 energy on the Misty, and I believe we're going to be able to win the game here. And what I'm actually going to do here is keep Froakie in the active spot and just KO this active Mewtwo with Froakie. And yeah, as we see the concession from our opponent. So 2 pretty dominant games from Articuno there. The tempo of this deck is just absolutely phenomenal. And it's kind of what it comes down to most of the time. Against Mewtwo, against other Articuno decks, against Charizard, anything like that, it really comes down to the pace. In this deck, while being a little bit more inconsistent than things like Pikachu, the pace can be really, really impressive and is kind of the reason why a lot of times we're going to win games. Yeah, so that was Articuno and Greninja. We didn't actually get a chance to showcase Greninja much. We kind of just drew really, really properly with Articuno there, but maybe we're going to try to find another game and see if we can showcase Greninja a little bit better for this particular deck. All right, now this deck list that we're going to take a look at, deck number 2, is a similar deck that is also running Greninja. It's still running Articuno EX, but now we're running Starmie EX as well. In fact, in this deck list, Starmie is going to be the primary attacker, whereas Articuno is sort of an additional option in this deck list. And I actually do like Starmie a lot. The third deck we're going to take a look at it also incorporates Starmie EX, but Starmie's really interesting. It's a stage 1 Pokemon. For 2 energies, it does 90 damage, which is a very consistent attack. The nice thing about Starmie is that it has free retreat. Now, I believe Starmie doesn't have that much HP. It only has 130, yeah, which is very, very little, if we're being 100% honest. We are going second, okay, so this is good. But 130 on a stage 1 Pokemon is quite low. It's actually less than the basic EX Pokemon in our deck, Articuno EX. But free retreat is actually really, really important. If you haven't played a deck that has a Pokemon with free retreat, it's extremely good. It basically makes you a little bit protected in some ways from getting Sabrina. Basically having a Pokemon that you don't have to use X speed for to retreat out. Energy is the primary resource in Pokemon TCG Pocket, and it's very important to not waste any of your energies. If you do, you're likely not going to win the game, so being able to retreat out of the active spot without having to, discard any of your energies is very, very important. So it looks like we're playing Mewtwo here. We see a Ghastly in the active spot as well, which is very interesting. We're going to play Pokeball first before Research because we want a better chance of finding basic Pokemon. And here we go. So we are going to pull this Articuno EX. And I'm actually going to attach to the active spot just because we have the Starmie in hand. We could get red carded here. That is very, very, very likely in all in all sense of the word here. And yeah, so we're going second. We can actually just attack the active for 60 here. And we could have Sabrina'd last turn to bring up this this Mewtwo, but I think we'll probably wait next turn to do it. This Ghastly isn't... I'm not too worried about it. Gengar can be a little bit annoying just because it stops us from using Misty, and we haven't drawn any Misty yet, but again, we're a few turns off at least. So, okay, so we see the Froakie as well. We have Frogadier in hand. We're going to just evolve into the Starmie and start attacking this way, I believe. We could play Research this turn, but I think it's probably better for us to get the damage and pressure onto that Mewtwo first. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. If he had another basic Pokemon on his bench, like another Mewtwo, then I probably wouldn't have played Sabrina there. I probably would have just taken the KO, but I believe doing it this order is probably the best case scenario. One of the weaknesses of Mewtwo is that it has a retreat cost of 2. And so it's a little bit more difficult for it to retreat out while also keeping sort of that energy pace that this deck really needs, Mewtwo that is, to get up and running. So early damage on this Mewtwo is going to be really nice. Even if he takes a KO on us, we should be able to respond pretty effectively with either another Starmie or... Okay, so there's the second Mewtwo, which he's probably going to attach to, yeah, because when you're playing Mewtwo in this position, it's basically... You kind of have to just abandon that active Mewtwo, right? Just because, it has the damage on it already. So I'm going to start attaching to the Articuno here. I'm going to evolve into the Frogadier, and we're going to play Research and try to draw a Greninja, which would be really good. And there it is, along with the Misty. So that's perfect. Those are the two cards that we actually really wanted, potentially giving us the ability to make things happen next turn. The one card we probably will want next turn, if he doesn't bench a Pokemon this turn, and even if he does, to be honest with you, is going to be Sabrina. Taking 2 prize cards there early on in this game is really good because now all we have to do is take a KO on one of these sort of low HP Pokemon. So we have 7 cards in deck. We have, I believe, 1 more Sabrina. Maybe not. I think we're actually only running 1 Sabrina in this deck list. I should have it pulled up while I'm playing with it. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. And here we go. We see the attack from the Mewtwo EX. So this is all but kind of a guaranteed sort of process here. Mainly because of Greninja, and this is really nice. This, again, at least we're able to showcase Greninja a little bit more this match. So the thing with Greninja here is we can basically start chipping away, and if he doesn't find the Haunter, we could have hit the active, but I don't believe it matters because 80 plus 90 is going to get the KO here either way. And we are going to play the Misty here on the Articuno. We could have played it on the Greninja. It would have actually been maybe a little bit smarter to give us another option. We flip tails anyway, because of course we do. Misty is like that, right? But yeah, Starmie doing 90 for 2 is really underrated if you think about it. It's kind of like Pikachu in that respect, whereas it's a stage 1 Pokemon. Pikachu is a basic, but it doesn't require us to have all of the Pokemon on our bench to do that 90 damage. We just do 90 no matter what. Then the free retreat cost is exceptionally nice. We're going to be able to retreat out here for free and not have to basically it's not going to cost us anything, which is really great. And now my opponent's just in a position, unless he plays another potion here, which would be crazy. But if he did, then he still loses because we have Greninja. And that's really the powerful aspect of Greninja. It makes the deck a little bit more inconsistent playing Greninja. Just because it is a stage 3 Pokemon, that can be a little bit tricky to... I'm not even going to play this because we're just going to go ahead and take the W here, and I'm actually going to do it by using Greninja and showcase what Greninja can do a little bit, taking our final KO on the bench Pokemon. So, yeah, this is a deck list that I really do like. It has a little bit of everything. It has a lot of Pokemon. It's very Pokemon heavy, so you're missing some things like a Giovanni or an extra potion, an extra X-Speed, maybe an extra Sabrina. So you're missing things like that, but having this many Pokemon and this many options in the deck does kind of have a pretty interesting flow to it, and kind of opens up a lot of different routes of which you can win games strictly via the matchups of the Pokemon that you have in your deck. So this is a good one. I like this one a lot. Let me know down in the comment section below if this one is better than the last one, and then let's take a look at the third deck. that we're gonna showcase here for Articuno EX. All right, so the third deck that we're gonna take a look at for the Articuno archetype is actually no Greninja. This is sort of the classic bread and butter Articuno and Starmie EX deck. A lot of people are high on Greninja, so I think a lot of people would prefer to probably run Greninja in their deck, at least right now. But there is a big upside to not running Greninja in your deck, and that is consistency, right? I mean, if you're kind of just utilizing the primary attacking Pokemon to do damage, then you don't necessarily have to worry about setting up any other Pokemon to get the KOs. It does sort of close off the deck's opportunities a little bit in the late game, but again, it kind of improves that consistency of the early game as we see our opponent playing probably a very similar deck than we are, which is very fun. But yeah, so all these decks are going to be very similar in nature, right? The core of the decks are all the same. It just comes to kind of the quantity and distribution of the Greninja, the Articuno, and the Starmies. And each one has its kind of own different flavor to it and nuances in which the games and the matchups kind of happen. So I'd be really interested to know, guys. Comment below what your favorite way to play these decks are. Do you like Greninja? Okay, so we see a turn 1 Misty. This could be pretty dangerous for us. I wonder if he's playing it on the Starmie or not. He flips tails anyway. GG. It's a skill issue. We also have Starmie in hand, or Misty in hand, but we don't have anything else, which is really bad. Really, really not good, in fact, at all. So I talk about consistency and then I just draw worse than I did the last few games. But I suppose this can happen. I mean, the less Pokemon you have, the less likely you are to draw it. So I'm actually not going to play our Misty yet. I don't think it's really worth us doing, if I'm being honest with you. I assume he doesn't have another Misty in hand as well. So I am hopefully just going to wait next turn. And hopefully we draw into either a Starmie or maybe even an Articuno. But, okay, so we see the research here, so no Misty this turn. We are safe from getting KO'd at least. However, we could see... Okay, so he's actually running Tentacool. This is interesting. Tentacool is not a great Pokemon in its own right. It's stage 1. I believe it does 60 damage, and it poisons. Poison is not bad, but it just doesn't really have any synergy with like, water type in general. It's a very interesting card. Like, it's the only water type card that can poison, and that in its own right is really interesting, but I don't think it's a great card, I guess, and it just in general, that's sort of my opinion on it. What do we draw here? We draw a potion. Okay, all right, that's pretty tough. That's very tough, actually. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna Sabrina now, and hopefully not die next turn. I think that's quite literally, or get knocked out rather. Hopefully not get knocked out next turn. That's kind of the upside here. We have 13 cards in deck. We have 2 Pokeballs, we have 2 Researches, we have 2 Starmies, and we have 2 Articunos. We have not drawn any of them, unfortunately. We'll attach another energy to Staryu, because why not? And he brings up the Tentacool, which is, again, very interesting. But I guess it's just because it has a retreat cost of 1. I don't know what his hand looks like. He didn't draw Starmie last turn, so maybe he has it now. But a very ominous start to this game, I will tell you what. Playing a version of the deck that is supposed to be more consistent, it just happens to not really be at all. So he evolves into the Tentacruel here, and he's going to start attaching. So if we don't find another Pokemon, or... Okay, a Research. Okay, so there's a chance here. There is a chance. Let's draw the Starmie and take the KO on the active. That would be super ideal. We draw into the Articuno and an X-Speed. Okay, so not terrible, all things considered. But I think we're gonna have to retreat anyway, just because I don't want to get this. I don't want the Staryu to get KO'd, and I don't want it to go down on energy. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm just gonna X-Speed into the active. We're not gonna be able to get an attack off this turn, but I'm not super worried about that. If I'm being 100% honest here, I just don't want to lose the 2 energies on our Staryu. So we're just gonna move up the Articuno in the active spot and pass. Luckily, we drew some sort of a Pokemon here with that Research, so you know we aren't going to get KO'd, which is nice. We could have retreated out for free and then left the X-Speeds, but we're probably gonna have to retreat out again anyway. And here's the Sabrina, so that is unfortunate for sure. He is going to take the KO on the Staryu, but it's not the end of the world, all things considered. You know, what we could do here is flip 2 heads, or at least 1 heads on the Misty, and we're still going to get kind of attacked the next turn. He's not going to get KO'd, although we could draw the Yeah, the thing is, we can't Giovanni and Misty in the same turn. There's another Articuno. Okay, so this isn't actually that bad, if I'm being 100% honest with you. I'm going to just Misty first before I attach the energy in case we do flip 2 heads. 1 heads would be ideal. That way we could attack this turn, and it's tails, unfortunately. And okay, that's okay. I mean, 9 cards in deck. we're going to attack with Ice Wing here. Getting a little bit more unlucky this game, which happens, of course. And Articuno is a little bit more of a RNG deck list than it is not. But, you know, it is what it is, right? I was talking smack about Tentacool, and now it's absolutely smoking me, which is how these videos go, if we're 100% honest with you. Things that necessarily aren't the best in theory end up sort of being the things that end up biting you in the butt here. This 50 damage plus the poison is interesting. Like, inherently, it's not very good, this card, doing, you know, 50 damage and poisoning for 2 energies on a stage 1 Pokemon. That's inherently isn't a very good effect, but it could be the difference in this in this matchup. It could be what kind of takes us out here. Okay, so we see another Misty. Now, I am going to have to Misty the benched Articuno and hopefully get some heads here. And it's another Tails. Very unfortunate for us here. Very, very unfortunate. I'm trying to think. So I think, to be honest with you, what we have to do is we have to potion and just attach to the active. If he draws into a Starmie, then we just lose. And that's just how it goes. Not flipping heads on any Misties kind of just puts us behind the 8-ball here. And he has 2 Staryus here with 1 energy, which means he can bring up this one that, you know, has more HP, or anyone in particular. And if he draws a Starmie this turn, then he's just going to be able to hit us for 90 damage, which in turn plus the poison will you know, we will get knocked out. And that'll be the game. Which happens, you know what I mean? It certainly happens. That early Sabrina was tough. Us not drawing those our Pokemon early enough in the game, kind of protecting us from an early Sabrina like that. I mean, that's why we lost the game, really, right? Okay, so we see the Tentacool come down. Do we see the Starmie? If not, there's a chance, technically speaking. Is it a good chance? I'm not sure. He has 5 cards in deck, so playing 2 Staryus makes me think he has 2 Starmies in his deck. We have just sort of yet to see one. And he's going to attach to that Tentacool. So it's becoming increasingly more likely. If we look at his discard pile, he's played 1 research, so he probably has 1 research and 1 Starmie left in his deck. So it's very, very likely that he draws one of those cards next turn, in which either way we are going to lose. And that is unfortunate for us. Now, here's the thing. I think my best bet here, and I'm being 100% honest when I say this, I think my best bet here is not to take the KO, but to just retreat into this Articuno with full HP, keep the X speed in our hand. Do we have another potion in our deck? We don't. Okay, that's tough. We're going to kind of hope to just not take a hit here. I think that's kind of where it just comes down to. I don't know if there's a route in which we can win this game. We see the X speed, which is really interesting. I wonder if he's just going to go into the Tentacool and start attacking with it. He is. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Very interesting. We're just behind on energies, and I don't think we really have any way to get around that. If I'm being honest with you. Because he's going to hit me for 50. It's going to put me in range of a Starmie, and he's just going to draw into the Starmie next turn, and he can just retreat into it. Being behind on energies here is kind of the main reason why we're going to lose this game. It wouldn't have been as big of an issue. Oh, there's the Starmie. Did he just have that in his hand the whole time? It wouldn't have been an issue if our Starmie early in the game didn't get KO'd, right? I think that's kind of the problem. And here's the Starmie here. Okay. Yeah, we just lose this turn. There's literally nothing we can do other than just go. Maybe we could technically go into this Starmie, but we sort of lose anyway. So I'm just going to attach to this Articuno, and we're going to pass. But yeah, I mean, this game's over. So, but yeah, so that early game Sabrina was the sort of the downfall for us in this particular matchup, and you would kind of hope that, you know, running last sort of cards that aren't absolutely crucial would make the deck overall a little bit more consistent, but really what it does do is that it gives you more potions, more Sabrinas, more Giovannis, but it gives you less Pokemon. And a big reason why people end up losing, like we've lost in today's game here, is because we didn't get enough Pokemon on our bench, and we kind of fell short to an early game Sabrina, where our opponent was able to take a KO on a Pokemon that we've invested energies in, where, you know, we weren't able to evolve it in time. And that is a very big downside to sort of a deck like this that isn't running enough Pokemon. So Very interesting. I think it actually showcases it. I'm not being like facetious at all. I'm actually saying that this sort of deck list like this, which is supposed to be a little bit more consistent, not running any stage 2 Pokemon, it does kind of go to show that, you know, the less Pokemon you run, the less likely you are to have your bench full of Pokemon in the early game, and this is exactly what can happen, right? You can get KO'd by that early Sabrina and just sort of be behind. We did flip tails twice on Starmie, or not Starmie, on with Misty, which is a little unfortunate, but yeah, so we took the L. A couple of L's, I think, in this video, but don't forget to comment down below what you think is the best way to play Articuno EX. I do think that Greninja is very good. I think that having a good balance between both Starmie, Articuno, and Greninja can be good. It does clutter the deck up a little bit, but, you know, Starmie a lot of times is actually a better attacker than Articuno, so I think that second deck that we played with 2 Starmie, 1 Articuno, and 2 Greninja actually kind of makes a lot of sense in my mind. Again, we have to cut out some Giovanni's, maybe cut out Sabrina, Quick Ball, or X-Speed, or Potion, things like that, but I do like that list a lot. I think Greninja, people are kind of smartening up a little bit to running Greninja in their deck list, and I think that that's probably a good decision. I think Greninja is really, really good, especially in the late game where Articuno EX can maybe struggle a little bit with its overall sort of attacking power. But comment below, what is your favorite way to play Articuno EX? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you guys next time, and yeah, thank you so much for watching.